Okay, page 138. We're learning now about the practicality of what all the Rebbe has taught us in this mimer, Nasa No Aliyas Yerktana, about Shachris, about Ma'ariv, Shachris, and Mincha. The culmination of which is Mincha. He asked a question in the beginning. His basic question in this mimer was a simple question. The Zohar HaKadosh, the Holy Zohar, says that the way to be metaken, to correct the Shechina being in Golus, in exile, is by davening Ma'ariv and Shachris. And why? Because Ma'ariv represents the Kisei, and Shachris represents Ma'ariv represents the Mita, the bed. Shachris represents the chair, the table, the chair, and the menorah. And he explained that what it means, Beruchnius. Okay, great. What about Mincha? Chazal say that Eliyahu was only answered with his tefillas, with his prayers, because of the merit of Mincha, because he davened Mincha, the avoid of Mincha. So how is it that the Zohar makes itself completely existing? Doesn't it pretends as though Mincha is small change. It doesn't mention it. You would think that Mincha is the primary way of being masakin, the Shechina being in Golus. You want to make Hashem, who's in Golus with us, come out of Golus in a sense spiritually. Daven Mincha, with everything that Mincha represents, as we've been talking about. And that was his question in the very beginning of the mimer. What's his answer to the question? So in this chapter, he tells us the answer. And the answer is that the other tefillos, Ma'ariv and Shachris, are just an introduction to Mincha. They're a preparation for Mincha. And they're very important, they're very holy, and everything. But Mincha is greater than making a tikkun. He doesn't say these words in this mimer, but I'll paraphrase what I believe he's saying. When you talk about making a tikkun means I'm stuck. How do I become unstuck? How do I deal with a problem? For that you have Ma'ariv, Krishma Shalamita, and Shachris. Mincha is beyond problems. Why is Mincha beyond problems? Because Mincha is one big problem. I'm in the middle of working. I'm in the middle of my youthful years. You know, when you're a senior citizen, or when you're a child or a student, you have time to ponder and reflect and argue and philosophize, and that's what we do when we're younger people in our youthful age. And that's what we do when we're older. We have nothing to do, so we think about all the problems of the world. How can we still solve them while we're still alive? But when you're in the middle of working, you have to bring home bread on the table. You have to drive your kids to carpool, or you have to figure out what train they're taking, and you want to make sure they're safe. You don't have time to think about other people's problems and the world's issues, etc. Mincha is that. So Mincha is not about tikkun. Ma'ariv and Shachris is about tikkun. Mincha is beyond tikkun. And that's why it's specifically during Mincha, which transcends tikkun, that is the solution to the problem. And this touches upon, for a moment, a general idea that's important to talk about and to think about. There are two ways of solving a problem. One way is to deal with the problem, the nitty-gritty details of the problem, and confront it head-on, etc. The other way is to overwhelm the problem by not thinking about the problem and immersing yourself in a realm of goodness and kindness that's so great and so beyond the problem that the problem doesn't exist in that realm. Which, by the way, is the secret to bitachon. You know, everyone screams, bitachon, 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 shara bitachon, 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 bitachon. What's the view of most people in bitachon is, I have a problem, I have an issue, and I'm going to use betochen to get out of the issue. The Rebbe has a sikha, I believe in volume 36, 32 or 36 of the Likutei Sichos on Parsha Shmos, where the Rebbe goes a lot deeper. And the Rebbe says, but real betochen is, there's no problem. You go out on the street in Bet Shemesh, go out, next time you can stop someone on the street and ask them what betochen is. Someone who learns in Koilo, and he davens and he learns and he's steiging away. Guaranteed is going to tell you, you have a problem, you trust in Hashem, and you have belief in God. Chabad Chassidus, as the Rebbe sees it, it's way beyond that. There's no problem. The famous story with Reb Zusha, right? People say it with different Rebbes, where he came to the Maggid and he had an issue. So the person said, go to Reb Zusha. He'll help you. He goes to the Zusha and he sees him sitting in a house that had barely any furniture, and the furniture had splinters in it, and it was so poor and shabby, and so he thinks that Reb Zusha is going to apologize for the way he greets him and the way his house looks and everything else. And of course, Reb Zusha himself would be so uncomfortable because someone's coming into his home and his home is so dilapidated. And he realizes that Reb Zusha doesn't even realize and fathom and care that this, because Olam Hazeh, the physical material world to Reb Zusha meant nothing. And he told him basically, we're here as a walkthrough to the world to come, which is standard Chazal. So he got the lesson, the person, and that's why the Maggid sent him to Reb Zusha. You're coming to me with your problems. Go to Reb Zusha and you'll see and you'll hear there are no problems. It's all good. Oh, to learn this is an avodah. This is an avodah. And this is the true idea of betochen. So when we talk about, I bring this idea to the table because when we talk about the idea of mincha is reality. There's no time here for negotiations and debates and contemplations, and I'm smarter than you and you're smarter than me and I can outsmart you, you can outsmart me, and how am I going to do it? All the issues that we deal with as young people in particular and older people as seniors. So that's why mincha is not included in the Zohar as a tikkun for Golus. Mincha is beyond Golus. And that's why Eliyahu was only answered Yoni because of mincha. Why? Eliyahu was in a situation where he had a problem and he needed a resolution. If he would have used Ma'ariv or Shachris, his problem wouldn't go away. The problem would be there, but there would be a way of dealing with the problem. The problem still exists. Yes, Yoni.
So this story, Reb Shlomo Epstein told us there in Kollel a couple of months ago, the story about a person who he and his wife didn't have children for like a long time, like 18, 19 years.
Yeah.
And he went to the Chazon Ish for a bracha.
Yeah.
So he goes to the shul in Bnei Brak, and he tries to speak to the Chazon Ish, and the Chazon Ish says to him, he says, I want a bracha, this and that. He says to me, come back after mincha. So he's like, okay. So the Chazon Ish davens mincha, and then there were a lot of people, so he had to wait until the Chazon Ish had a few minutes to speak with him, and then he gave him the bracha after mincha. So he asked him afterwards. He says, I just wanted to know why did you tell me to come back after mincha? So he said, because if I would have given you the bracha before mincha, you wouldn't be Mekayim.
Right.
He came to him afterwards. He came to him afterwards when the wife was pregnant. And he says, why did you tell me that time when I came to you? Because at that time it wouldn't have been good, the bracha. I had to do dam.
Right.
And then if I give you the bracha, then it would be successful.
Thank you. I hear. Okay, let's go into the text now. We're in the last paragraph. We're 6 lines from the bottom, in the middle of the line, it says, Vihini Isa Bezoyar. We find in the Zoyar. Vihine Isa Bezoyar is brought in the Zoyar HaKadosh. Asiya Leila. This is a famous quote that's quoted throughout Chassidus. Action is superior. Remember these words, Moshe. Asiya Leila. Action is superior. Talk is cheap. Thinking is good, but it accomplishes nothing. You could think and be in your own world. You're in a world of virtual reality, but it's virtual. You can't pay your bills, and you can't put on film with someone, and you can't help your mother and father. Asiya, action, leila. So if someone ever says to you, Asiya leila, you'll know that it's a quote from the Zohar. And what does it mean? Put your money where your mouth is. Let me see what you're made of. Asiya leila, action. I don't mean money, I mean action. Through action, with bepoel, in actuality, we reach Lepchina level madrega kazu, such a level shilamayla mayla mikimoy shemagiyim aide askola vasoga. You reach a level that's way beyond the intellectuals. You know those intellectuals in shul, they philosophize and they have an opinion about everything, and they're so bright. What did they have to show compared to what you do, chesed and toivus and all that? Nothing. This is, I'm not saying it's everyone this way, but many people, they're haskola vasaga, they're so bright, and they can give you the best shot and everything. When it comes to action, they're poor in action. So that's what the Rebbe says here. Going back to the story with the Isha Shanamis, where a holy man passes by. She says to her husband, let's make for him a room. Let's place over there mita, a bed, shulchan, a table, kisei, a chair, when they're in a candelabra. We learned earlier at the beginning of the Maimer that the Rebbe explains that every single Jew has a pure spirit. That every Jew has, his yashus v'gilui needs to be settled. Make a room. Make a bed and a chair and a table and a light. Let the person feel good, right? Go into your hotel room. You know, you're traveling, you walk even the hallway and the dining hall and all that. You come into your room, you have his yashvus, settlement, calmness. Vigilui, and it's very revealed, it's apparent, it's bright. So she says, the Rebbe says, that the Ruach Tahara, the spirit of Tahara, that every Yid has in his neshama or her neshama, needs to find a place that it's settled, that it's calm, that it can be revealed. The Haruach Tahara, as he says, who and how is that? Now, by practicing the 4 methods of correcting the Shechina, i.e., Ma'ariv and Shachris, we create a home for godly energy to be palpable, real, calm, and settled. And then we reach a higher state, which is Mincha, which he doesn't say here, but that's what he said earlier.
I mean, is he referring to, Minyan B'tzibur? Or Stam Minyan, Stam davening on your own mincha, or
no? Is he
specific?
Well, technically, it's mincha. It's mincha on your own. It's mincha. The quality of mincha is the quality of mincha, whether it's with a minyan or without a minyan. It's understandable that davening with a minyan is a much greater, issue halachically and spiritually. But the answer is mincha on its own. I'm glad you asked that, Yoni. What's this word, Avram? Nase, let us make. She's talking to her husband. Nase no Yonison. Let us please make for him a room. says the Rebbe, it's not just a conversation between a husband and wife in a practical sense. Nase, asiya leila. The virtue of action is implied in the word nase. Act upon it. Not philosophize about doing things, but actually do things. That's why it says nase no. In other words, maybe the Rebbe is alluding to, if you want to, what will be the word? Let's build a room. Nivna, let's build a room. It doesn't say that. It says nase. Nase is associated with asiya. So that's why, look, after he quotes the verse, he quotes the piece of Zohar that we quoted earlier, asiya leila. In other words, listen to this chevra. She had the foresight to tell her husband it's all about action. The woman tells the man, to her husband, you're a philosopher. I'm paraphrasing. You can philosophize and you can come up with ideologies and pontification and ideas left and right. That's not where it's at. Nase. Yes, Moshe.
I was going to say you can see that this is a time proven lesson that you see time and time again, that when a husband actually does in the home, talk is cheap. If you actually do and you create and you build your home and you make your home and you make your home nice, you actually do, one's wife feels so much better.
Right. Well said. Right. Talk is cheap. Just do, and people will see and learn from example. So that's why it says nase no, asiya leila. When we talk about this in practical life, what does it mean? Top of 139. Bi'avas Yisrael bichlo. This refers to the general idea, number one, of loving another Jew. Don't find excuses. Work on loving every Jew. That's number one. Number two, see, the Rebbe now is very practical, guys. Uvachnoses orchim. Bring guests into your home. If the situation is right for it. Sometimes it's difficult, but because of outside interferences. But your will should be to make your home a home of achnasos orchim. Shebo betircha saguf befrat. The Rebbe says, I know it takes bother of the body. In other words, it's a lot of work. You have to set up, you have to cook, you have to buy the food, more food, then set up the table and cook and clean. All for hachnosas orchim. Yes, it is a tircha, Yonason. It is a bother. But to be able to be mekayim hachnosas orchim, which you should do, the Rebbe says, as a practical result of nase, do it. And when you do this, not to gain benefit, not to gain prestige, not to gain any kind of recognition, but rather l'shem shamayim, for the sake of heaven, to do the mitzvah of achnosas orchim. Through this we reach a higher level, in the four methods of reparation, we actually complete the purpose, the Briyas Olam of the creation of the world, to make this world a home and abode for Hashem. And this is the pure vessel. You see, you need, Hillel, a kli tahora. Many times we make kalim, but they have adulterated pieces in it. Shtus. A little geneva, a little cheating, whatever. So the Rebbe says, when you do pure achnosas orchim, and it's taxing and bothersome, and you do it for one purpose because Hashem said so, that's the kli tahora. That is the pure vessel, lekabel shefa bracha, to receive the flow of blessing, the supernal blessing, bebona chaya umazoina, in regards to your children, to your life, health, and to your parnasa. I don't think it can be any clearer than these 4 lines over here. It's crystal clear what we need to do. And the Rebbe says here 2 things. Avas Yisrael b'chlal, having love for every Jew. And number 2, specifically, hachnosas orchim. It's interesting that the Rebbe chooses this, because what did she do, Yoni? What did the Isha Shanamis do in the story of Malachim? She made a room. She told her husband, let's make a room. Let's put a bed down there and a table and a chair and a candelabra. And of course, she gave him food. I don't know if she gave it to him in the room. Probably invited him downstairs. But she fed him. Hachnos Zorchem. You understand? So the Rebbe doesn't say that I derived the lesson of the practicality of this whole mimer is to have Hachnos Zorchem from the story with Elisha and with the story with Isha Shanamis, but I think 1 + 1 = 2. What she did was Hachnas Zorchem. So we have a few more minutes. So what does this tell us? So what does this whole mimer tell us? This mimer tells us that there is a system in our Jewish life, in our Torah life, that if you follow the script, the result will be a very good result. The Rebbe says here, you'll be blessed with an abundance of shefa bracha. Well, I mean, that's powerful. Supernal shefa of blessing in all aspects. Wow. And he says that you need a kli tahora. And what is the kli tahora? When you do it l'shem shemayim. So this is also important. Sometimes we do certain things that they're nice things, but it's not pure. So the Rebbe says, no. You want the shefa bracha milmayla in Bonachayim Zayna. Make sure that what you're doing is a kli tahora. And this is the virtue of mincha. In other words, mincha is the result of a proper preparation of Krishma Shalavita and Shachris. So someone will say, let me go directly to mincha and skip Krishma Shalavita and Shachris. It doesn't work that way. Why? Because it's like coming in and doing the good deed, without a shirt and pants. It's like, come on, get with it. It's cold outside. Put a sweater on. The program requires.
I was going to say you want to sleep in.
Get with the program. Prepare yourself. You prepare yourself. It reminds me. They say that the Rebbe, after Mincha, when he would go back, Mincha was 3:15 every day upstairs, usually in the upstairs base medrash, which I showed Moshe and his family where that is. We even got the women to go in, and someone berated me, but that was fine. I'm used to it, and I know the guy anyway. He has to get married. Anyway, he's only about 40 years old. He's still single. Anyway, that was not a nice joke. Anyway. So the Rebbe would daven there 3:15 every day. But 15 minutes, 3:30, went back, approximately went back to his room, which was right across the hall, which I also showed you, and it was locked, we couldn't go in, but that's the Rebbe's room, which we call the Yechidus room. And in the foyer that we walked in, the hallway where they have what we call the magnet, simply the design of this beautiful building that was put up in, I think, the early 20s or so, 30s. So it looks, you have like something coming down from the ceiling that looks like it has a spitz. It has like a pointy thing. It's a design. So we would make fun and we'd say that's the magnet that draws all the interesting people to 770. Anyway, but so the base medrash, the Zal upstairs is here, and here's the Rebbe's room. It's like 4 steps. But the Rebbe would go from the room, from the Beis Medrash to his office. When he got in, he took off his kapota and his hat, and he went right to the Sforim to learn and do what he had to do. When he came out to the public, he wore a hat and a kapota. He looked put together. Let's use that word. In your own house, in your own house. In a way, you don't look put together. It's not the show. And I don't mean a bad show, but you're not dressing up. The world we live in, whether it be coming out from your room into Beis Medrash, requires looking a certain way. And I enjoy when I make my clips. I enjoy sitting like this and just talking. And I told when they asked me a few years ago to start these things, I said I'll do it, but I have one condition: I come the way I am. Don't give me no conditions, otherwise I'm not doing it. You take it or leave it. You have many other people that put on their ties and their hats and their jackets and if I want to do that, sometimes I do it for whatever.
That's why I'm with you. I'm with you 100%.
No. So the guy said to me, fine, it's exactly what I want. Because I said it's a fabrenga. With me, you're fabrenga. I give lectures, but I'm not giving a lecture right here. You know what I'm saying? When I give a lecture, I put on a kapota and I look more put together. And so many people, even the Hasidim here, have said, we love your videos because of your suspenders. It's amazing the way people think. What do they love? And I love to see you with your suspenders and just talk. Anyway, that's in your house. That's in your comfort zone. That's mincha. That's who you are. You go out. It's either cold outside, it's hot outside. Someone's looking at you. You come to shul, people, they look at you, the Lubavitcher, every morning I'm in the shul with 100 non-Lubavitchers, so right away when I come in, the eyes go this way, that way, the Chabadnik. That's the nature of the beast. Well,
it's so rare to find a Lubavitcher in Borough Park these days.
Yeah. And I have a responsibility. Because they come from a different culture. And they, looking at someone like myself, they do expect me with the hat and the kapota, you know what I'm saying? And when I sometimes, for whatever reason, I don't have it, I know that they say, "What are you normal? Like, you're a rabbi, you're a teacher, you're a scholar, you're a writer, and you're sitting like this in shul with come on. It's not respectful." And they're right. I'm wrong and they're right. That's why I said the Rebbe, when he came into the Beis Medrash, he was put together. When he went into his room, he took off his hat and jacket and just went, he's in his own room. And why am I saying this? Because we're learning here about the difference between Ma'ariv and Shachris and Mincha. Mincha is the essence, who you are. Mincha transcends. And at the end of the day, Moshe said it well. If you are who you are, a mensch, and you don't have to say I'm a mensch, and you act like a mensch, and you do like a mensch, believe me, everyone will know you're a mensch, and people will gravitate and want to learn from you, and it'll benefit your family. Shachris and Ma'ariv, as important as they are, and boy, did we learn how important they are, they're still the preparation. They're still the facade. Like, Hilla, you missed what I said earlier, but it's important that it's the correction to a problem. In other words, there is a problem, and how do I correct the problem? And this is also why I feel that if we have more educators that are really emes, and the students see in them, in him and her, that they're honest people, sincere people, that is the magnet to having them grow and want to be this way and continue this way. It's when they sense hypocrisy, we've lost them. Yes, Yoni.
I just wanted to add, I'm assuming that it's this as well, but the honesty, the integrity is also the humility. Meaning if somebody sees somebody that is humble and is not arrogant, that's a true emistica person.
Yes. Yes.
Natural.
Yes, of course. You won't have the honesty, integrity without the humility, because Humility says, recognize your shortcomings, be humble, and realize you're not the God's gift to mankind. The world can survive without you. Don't worry. You have a purpose, but we'll manage. There was a rabbi, a Chabad rabbi, who would always say to different employees, "You're not indispensable. You think you're indispensable, and I can't exist without you. Well, guess what? You're not." Now, I'm not saying he was justified in maybe firing too many people. That's another story. He wasn't. But the attitude is, you're not indispensable. You're going to go? I'm going to find someone else. Is he as good as you? Maybe not. But it will continue. And we're having that. We have that today, over the Shabbaton that I still am talking about because it's still brewing in my mind, and I'm going to be on my clip tomorrow for Shabbos. It's Hashem. You should hear it. It's all about the Shabbaton. I really laid it out in 13 minutes. You'll get a good laugh at certain points. So you saw this. You saw how people are people, and no one's indispensable. You know what I'm saying? The Rebbes, the great Rebbes, the great Gedolim have gone. That's it. You can't, till Mashiach comes, and Hashem very soon, they're not here. Okay? Their ideas are here, their teachings are here, and all that, and we have to do what we can. So you would think that the world is bereft of tzaddikim and Gedolim and Rebbes? No. Are they the same quality? I tell you, no. No. But nevertheless, we have the famous saying, Loi Almin Yisrael. So, quote, Israel is not an alman, an almana, right? An alman is
a widow.
A widow. The world is not widowed. The Eibishter knows that the world needs tzaddikim and gedolim and rebbes and chassidim and people, and he plans. I think there's someone in Eretz Yisrael. His name is the Yanuka, they call him. Have you heard of him? This Sephardi person, the Yanuka. I just became aware of him about 3-4 months ago, and I looked at a few videos. I mean, it's amazing. I don't know where this guy popped up from. And I said to myself, wow, he talks like he knows the whole Torah by heart. You just listen to him. It's like, again, I'm not sure he's, has the greatest depth in everything. I think people have greater depth in what they learn. But as far as, he's like a photographic memory. Young man, 35 years old. And he seems to have from the screen, it seems to have like a series name. They call him the Yanuka, somewhere in Eretz Yisrael. All of a sudden, where did he pop up from? There are. So, we need to know that the Eibishter understands this and he loves us. Anyway, Chevritz Pashas out of Yisroi the Shabbos, Matan Torah, Anoichi Hashem Elokecha. Anoichi, Ano Nafshi Ksavis Yehovis is an acronym for I've written myself into the Torah. The same is true with the Rabbeim. We just finished the Frierdiker Rebbe's Maimer. The Frierdiker Rebbe has written his soul, his essence into the Maimer. This coming week, Monday, is the Rebbetzin Chaya Mushka's yahrzeit. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about her on Monday, Mitzvah Shem. Passed away in February 1988. So there are many women who've come in for this weekend. They have a kinnus, an international convention for women. My daughter was hoping to come. She didn't come because, the bidud, and she runs a gan in Tel Aviv. So it's very hard. So I'm sure it'll be less people than usual, but still they're making. So it's the weekend of the women's kinnus in Chabad, just for the record. Have a great Shabbos, everyone, and we'll see you on Monday. Sei gesund. Bye-bye.
Have a good Shabbos, everybody.
Take care.